What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some very interesting news on the canceled Batman game from WB Montreal. So this came out today, and Batman Arkham Videos was the one, sharing the clip around. Comes from Josh Keaton, and this continues to add to just, I think, the excitement for this. I mean, the game's long gone, right? But the idea of what the game could have been, I think people have been into that for an incredibly long time. And this is a game we actually know quite a bit about. There's been loads of YouTube videos that have dug into it. There have been, it's kind of just out there in the world if you want to look at it. But the story of this game, right, is that, they were creating, I guess the short story, creating it, there were a ton of leaks, a lot of stuff got leaked, and the game eventually was canceled. Now, those two things, the last two things, actually did happen pretty close together, but and Josh Keaton, in this clip, he talks about, and he basically says that one is the cause of the other. He basically says, he did a couple lines as Batman in that game, which, by the way, just on its own, I think is pretty darn cool, but he did a few voice lines. The game got leaked everywhere, and then the game was canceled. And the way he says it very much sounds like because the game was leaked, the game was then canceled. And there are a lot of people that are believing, what he's saying. Now, look, you can believe whatever you want. It doesn't really matter too much to me. And honestly, this is a game that is dead, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, how it happened. It really matters the end thing, right? So the game is no longer around. That's the most important thing. How it was canceled or why it was canceled, yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to one day know why it was canceled, but the more important thing is that the game is just not going to happen. Now, Jason Schreier, right, he actually came out and did clarify, and you can believe him, not believe him. He definitely has been up and down, but, he said that is not true, that the game, obviously the game was canceled, but the game was not canceled because it was leaked online, and he said that he would like to one day tell the entire story of what happened with that game, and he'll probably, I think he said he's not going to put it on Twitter, so it'd be behind, the paywall that is Bloomberg News, so that'll be fun, and one day, we'll have to find methods to read that article, and, I think he has good sources, and I'm sure he'll tell overall the story. He tends to have, some things here and there that aren't right, but I would, be looking forward to that one day in our lives. But again, like the thing with Josh Keaton today is just that extra kind of part to it where it's like, okay, so now he was going to be Batman, right? But he wasn't going to be Bruce Wayne, so he was going to be Damian Wayne. Again, this is that Batman Beyond kind of project. And, I guess really quickly, my opinion on that whole cancel thing, I don't believe it either. I mean, I got to be real. And I think it makes it worse, or like I don't believe it more because of recent things that have happened. I'm thinking of two in particular, GTA 6. So GTA 6, it wasn't leaked like the worst it possibly could have been, but I mean, it was pretty bad. And even the stuff that happened, like last year when they went after the kid, right, basically at that time, that was, it was bad, but it wasn't the worst it could ever be. But then more recently, Wolverine. So, I mean, Wolverine has had everything come out, and, I've had my opinions on it, and what I've said basically is, what you got to remember is we are a small group. Like, there's a lot of us, in the Arkham community or the DC kind of games community, and there's a lot of people that, like, check in on the news online. But you got to think about how many units these games can sell or would sell, and then think about how many people, like, know this stuff. And I mean, like, we are in a bubble. Like, that is just, honestly, that is the case. So, yes, a lot of this game leaked. And there's, like, concept art of maps and characters and all sorts of stuff. It was a pretty big leak. But did that actually matter? Is that something that would have caused the game to be canceled? I think absolutely not, right? Because, again, I think, yeah, a couple, okay, the videos on this game did kind of blow up. But you also have to remember, did it blow up because the game's canceled, right? Like, especially nowadays when you hear about this game and you go back and you watch some of these, like, bigger YouTube videos that have done, deep dives. Yeah, there can be a couple 100,000 views on them, but I think it's got, like, notoriety because it's canceled. So at the time this game did leak, how many people knew about it? Maybe still a couple 100,000? Well, I got news for you. The game would have probably went on to sell, and we'll be really, like, generous, okay? 5 to 10 million units, right? I think that, for a not Arkham, but, very heavily, Batman game. And even though it'd be WB Montreal, I think there would be a lot of quality there. And I think people would have bought it and played it and liked it. So let's just say 5 million, on the low end. So 5 million people would have bought the game, and maybe a couple 100,000. So not even, maybe, anywhere between 5 to 15% of the population would have seen those leaks. And yeah, I'm spitballing. Yeah, I don't know those numbers for sure. But again, I would take in what GTA has just done, what Wolverine, what just happened to that. You got to think about the fact that we are in a bubble, and the people that are buying this game, the average Joe. And, I always bring in, like, a couple of my close friends. Like, I have a couple of friends that, are not on the channel. You've never seen them or anything. And, one in particular I know, he plays a lot of games, and he'll tell me he goes in completely blind. He maybe watches one trailer max. He doesn't see any of this new. He doesn't watch my stuff or anything like that, and that's totally fine. But, that's I believe that is what a lot of people do. I really do. Like, the internet is not everybody. So that's what I want to believe, and that's why I believe that there's absolutely no way. Just because this game was leaked, especially the way it was leaked, it's not... There's a difference between, like, a lot of info coming out and then, like, source code coming out. Like, that's actually a pretty big jump, of leaked information. I don't think what actually came out on this game would have been enough to shut it down. So I do wonder what actually shut it down. And honestly, to that, I think it was just, like, the situation. Like, Rocksteady, I guess as we now kind of know, Rocksteady pretty much went right from Arkham Knight to Suicide Squad. I don't really want to believe that. I can't believe it took them this long to do something like this, but it seems like that's what happened. WB Montreal definitely seems different, right? They seem to have done at least the Suicide Squad game, and then that got moved to Rocksteady, and then they made this game, and then this game basically became Gotham Knights. So WB Montreal had a lot more going on between Origins releasing and then Gotham Knights releasing. There was more there than there was with Rocksteady. And I think it was just they couldn't get it done. You know what I mean? Whether it was them themselves with talent, whether it was, the publisher, WB Games or WB in general, whatever happened. But I think that is probably what stopped this game, from happening. And then, just the 2 cents of, it's just another example of, disappointing. I think people really want this game. I think, especially even now, you could say, I'm not going to get too, deep into it with, the reception of Gotham Knights and stuff, but I think people would take this game still now. I do think if you polled people, to be honest with you, when Gotham Knights was coming out, if you would want Gotham Knights versus what this game was going to be, I do think a large majority wouldn't have picked Gotham Knights. I think people would still not pick Gotham Knights to this day. It's not, again, I don't want to get into the weeds of it. I don't even hate, Gotham Knights. You can look at the 300 videos, I did on the game, but I do think that's the case. I do think people really would have wanted this game, and it is actually, and honestly, one of gaming's tragic stories, of these games that were in the works that end up being canned. There's some, you find them every now and then, right, of these tragic stories, but this one, especially in the DC community, right, this is the notorious one. Again, that's actually why I think so many people know about it, because yeah, a lot was leaked, but then the game was canceled, and that was found out, and that was spread around, and then kind of retroactively, right, people kind of went back and said, oh, so this is what that game was going to be like. That to me is the order I think that this happened, and I think honestly, maybe in a way, it made the game more popular than it would have been. I would say than it would have been if it just came out. And I mean that the lead up to the game releasing. I think where we're at now, the game is actually more in the minds of people now than it would have been. I think the game would have done really well, and I think they should have put the game out. But again, it is what it is. It sucks. It's stupid, but this kind of just adds to it a little bit. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.